Hello and welcome to Behind the Lyrics, a series where I answer, Alex, what were you thinking when you wrote these particular lyrics? Way back when, as part of my secret poll that was very secretly figuring out what Musical Bytes series people wanted to see first, I did a follow-up asking what game in the Legend of Zelda series was people's favorite, and Breath of the Wild won by a landslide. This proved an interesting challenge for a couple of reasons. First off, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild music is decidedly different in tone to the rest of the series, and in fact it's a lot more atmospheric than anything. Thankfully, a YouTuber by the name of Vetrom has made a bunch of remixes of several tracks from Breath of the Wild, and is nice enough to give blanket permission to use those tracks as long as you give permission, so thank you very much, Vetrom. Another would be the art style, which is very unique and very painterly, and high props to Juno for being able to step up and do that. Lastly, a lot of Breath of the Wild deals with a mood and emotion that I really don't deal a whole lot with in comparison to like action-y songs or villain songs. The emotion of grief. Or, well, that's kinda oversimplifying it. See, Breath of the Wild deals with a Japanese concept known as mono no oware, which I probably horribly mispronounced. Literally translated, it means the pathos of things, but figuratively, it is awareness of impermanence and the beauty of life. Basically, cherry blossoms that bloom for a very short time and then fade away, that sort of thing. In Breath of the Wild, the Kingdom of Hyrule was amazing in its heyday, but then got destroyed. And when you get back to it 100 years later, for all intents and purposes, life is still going on. There are still monsters and guardians and stuff roaming the land, but people enjoy life while it's being lived. Because Musical Bytes come in at least packages of 4, the 4 champions of Hyrule were obvious choices to base the songs around. So through the lenses of a whole bunch of different people and culture, I decided to look at how all the champions feel about, even though they're dead for 100 years, the impact they've left on the world. So let's start off with Hermosa.
Deep in the desert they bloom, flowers on the dunes.
I actually wrote Hermosa a long while before the rest of the Legend of Zelda songs, and everyone involved has been waiting patiently for the day it would be released. I just didn't feel that it was complete without the rest of the champions also getting their say. The Gerudo of the Hyrulean Desert are among Hyrule's fiercest people, and are the most likely to take the fight directly to the bad guys, like the Yiga clan. Despite all of this, Hermosa is not portrayed as the stereotypical badass woman who's just out for a good brawl. She's actually a very motherly figure. An old friend of the Queen of Hyrule, she was the one who took over, as best she could, the job of nurturing Princess Zelda. And even when the champions are chosen to go train to fight Ganon, she's the one most concerned with how Zelda's doing. While obviously Hermosa wasn't going to do a full conversion to try and make Zelda an honorary Gerudo princess, I figured the way she would think best to raise the young princess would be based on the Gerudo customs. So absolutely, yes, she can be nurturing. But most importantly, she's focused on encouraging the inner strength of someone she cares for, and reassuring them that one day they will in fact find that strength for themselves. Even if it's not, like her example, the grace and deadliness of an expert swordsman. The Gerudo chant in the chorus is what I thought Gerudo funeral rites would be based on what we saw of the Gerudo language in the actual game. I can't guarantee its accuracy because I don't have the Gerudo language Bible in front of me, but my rough translation is, we greet the new day, farewell to our queen, glory to the child, Gerudo forever. Like I said before, Hermosa was written first, then there was a break and the rest of them came after. And it was a break I kinda needed because, ever since Dumbo and the Lion King, I have a hard time with dead parental figures that we spend a lot of time developing.
For you.
Revali.
One more for the winning streak. No rest until I succeed. Sweet victory awaiting me. So fly, Revali.
Revali was my favorite champion in Breath of the Wild. I loved the design of the Rito, archery was my preferred fighting style, and Revali's personality, while I can understand that a lot of people found it irritating because who really likes that smug rival character, I thought was a refreshing change of pace, and honestly, not all that irritating because you didn't have to spend the entire game with him. That being said, I always kind of felt Revali got the short end of the stick when compared to the other champions. The quest to board Vah Medoh was a lot shorter than the others, and while the Zora, Goron, and Gerudo all had memorials to their respective champions, Revali got a platform. The Champions Ballad DLC helped clarify a lot of details that honestly helped finish the picture. Revali's got a deep inferiority complex despite his natural skill, and feels that he has to push himself to the absolute physical limit in order to get recognition. Recognition is ultimately what Revali is fueled by. Without recognition, or rather with the fading recognition that gets Revali just a platform, but heaps of praise upon some kid who just happened to have the Master Sword, then obviously Revali's going to get a little bitter, with the divine beast Vah Medoh draping the Rito village in shadow to get some kind of recognition. But when he does have it, because I decided to throw the poor guy a bone for this song, it's that recognition and the praise that comes with it that really allows him to soar with the power of Revali's gale. I decided to throw him another bone by having him be a little bit nicer at the end of the song, recognizing that obviously he's not going to get all the recognition now that he's passed on, but he hopes the example of how hard he worked to get there inspires others to work even harder, and get as much, or more, glory as Revali himself wanted.
So dare and learn to fly, Revali.
Daruk.
Strength of the mountain, strength of the stone. Dig through the mountain we call home. Stand and be strong, never stand alone.
I think I knew even when writing this song that I wanted to play Daruk. Obviously I held auditions, but the big booming bass parts are always kind of my favorite to play. The Diaries of the Champions and Champions Ballad usually talk about the respective characters' hopes and fears and stuff. Daruk talks about food? So instead I chose to focus on Gorons as a people. Goron, like the Gerudo, are a tough and hardy race, but where the Gerudo would be the sword that fights against the darkness, the Goron would be the shield that stands tall against it. Naturally hardy and strong, Goron do for fun what a lot of people would consider lethal, but mostly they're just content hanging around on Death Mountain and mining. Obviously that lifestyle isn't going to fly with Calamity Ganon around, so Daruk, when he learned that he was going to be champion, eagerly volunteered. Notably, when talking to Zelda in the Champions Ballad DLC package, he mentioned having a horde of mighty Gorons watching your back, which, along with the fact that his special power is Daruk's protection, strongly indicates that in the field of battle, what Daruk values most is defense and keeping other people safe. The theoretical horde of Gorons versus just Daruk, who's already superhumanly strong, reinforces the strong value of community among the Goron people. While they're strong, they're stronger together, hence Come Fan the Flame derives not only from the fact that they live in Death Mountain, which is an active volcanic region, but also that they can invite and help other people fan the flame, or make whatever talents they have burn ever brighter, amplified by the help of everyone around them. This value on community means that brother in name, or being called a blood brother to the Goron even if you're not the same race as them, is incredibly important. And Link has managed to do this multiple times in multiple games.
Come fan the flame, brother in name. Carry protection wherever you go. You are Goron, and you'll never walk alone.
MIFA.
Sure as with the moon, the tide will rise. I've been waiting for you all my life.
It kinda worked out that MIFA has the smallest chorus of all the 4 Champions songs. Where Daruk's supposed to be a rousing gathering of a veritable wall of Gorons, Revali is a cheerful village gathering, and Hermosa is a bunch of Gerudo gathered for a funeral, MIFA Song I always pictured as far more intimate. Like almost to the level of One Sad Woman at a Piano intimate. I don't know for sure if Hyrule's figured out that the moon has something to do with high tides and low tides, but I put with the moon the tide will rise in there anyway, because I thought it was an apt metaphor. Obviously the Zora would put a lot of emphasis on the water and how high or low it is, and knowing the tides are an unchanging part of nature, parallels how MIFA knows for sure that nothing will change her love for Link, to the point of making a Zora tunic for him in a traditional Zora marriage proposal. While I know there is, or at least was, a lot of debate over shipping when Breath of the Wild came out, to the point that some people were violently insisting Link's true love was Paya, I went with the more traditional Zelda route and had Link be more attached to the Princess Zelda rather than MIFA herself. Or at least that's what MIFA sees. I think that if Link really did love Zelda over MIFA, even if MIFA survived the encounter with Calamity Ganon, she would understand that. And since she's long passed, she recognizes that even more. Compared to her, Link's life and happiness are fleeting and more important. Because the Zora are so long-lived, to the point that 100 years after MIFA's death, like half the population of Zora's domain personally knew MIFA, I figured that the chorus here would have the most legitimate veneration of the one they're singing to. Sorry, Rivali.
Hear my voice, I sing it true. I will always love you.
Mulgara.
Come listen to the tale we tell tonight. The princess of the goddess blood, and tonight, for all through history, they always seem to be the ones who stand and fight for the light.
So Mulgara's not in Breath of the Wild, Molduga is. I am aware. But my original version of Mulgara, and the Song of Storms, and to a lesser extent the Song of Healing, were popular enough that the Zelda series became one of the options on, hey, which musical Bytes series do you want to see first poll. I had the most fun out of all those singing Mulgara and thought that was the song most deserving of a remaster, so here we are. When I was first writing Mulgara, I wanted to do a song that reflected the Zelda franchise as a whole, rather than just reflect what was going on in the boss battle. Because I'm digging through the sand didn't sit well with me as a concept when I was listening to the music. I will admit that this decision was influenced by me at the time purchasing the Hyrule Historia book, which is where the line "the truth of our Historia now revealed" comes from. And so I decided to have the sandworm boss be an impossibly ancient sandworm, singing about the cyclical history of the Triforce, the people wielding it, and the fact that eventually evil is going to come back and ruin things. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute. You know who else talks about people playing the same parts over and over only to have their world ruined, crashed, and burned? Edgar Allan Poe and the Conqueror Worm. Hey, wait a minute. That has worm in the title, and Mulgara is a worm. Although I'm far from the first person to put the Conqueror Worm to music, I'm probably the first person to do some rewriting of the rhythm to make it fit with a Zelda song. Adding a chorus behind Mulgara for the remastered version, I think makes it clearer that the line "the wind through the flowers" is a reference to the Korok people and is being sung by Korok ghosts, rather than Mulgara, him, her, itself, because Mulgara's fought in the Wind Temple and the Koroks venerate it. There are also a couple of references to my lyrics in the Song of Storms in Mulgara, even though the Song of Storms is not in the Wind Waker, which I personally think is a crying shame. You're sailing on the sea in a pirate ship and you don't have a song to control storms? That is sensible, I guess, because you don't want lightning to strike your ship, but also, come on, that's a missed opportunity. One last bit of trivia. Protector of the Sea is a result of me completely misreading Protector of the Seal with an L on the end. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that L.
Now say goodbye to life, goodbye to the hero of our time. Oh, I come from the land of violence and I've taken power in my hands.
Thank you for listening to me explain my thought process behind these songs from Breath of the Wild, or Wind Waker in Mulgara's case. If you'd like to go back and listen to them, the link for that is right over here. If you want to check out more of what I've done, here is what YouTube thinks that you would like. If you like what I do, make sure to subscribe to see more of it, and if you want to support me, here is my Patreon. Looking forward to producing and maybe explaining, maybe, even more content for you. Thank you for watching, Internet Man, away!